It's Marion here. In case you thought you watched this live last night and I was wearing a different shirt and it was the same topic, you're right. I did. And something happened with vocal and it didn't record. So I'm going to re-record it tonight and use this in a blog post as I told everybody last night. What I will do is break out the tapping meditation. So when you go to the blog post, we'll have the bypassing procrastination part at the top with the outline and the notes I promised you. And then down below, I will record the tapping meditation separately. So that should help everybody a little bit get to just the part that they want to see. And as we said last night, if you were here, not every time that we don't do something immediately is it truly procrastination. So the first thing I want everybody to do is figure out whether or not they're really dealing with a case of procrastination or it's something else. Health concerns can be an issue. For example, if you are suffering from depression, it can look a whole lot like procrastination, in which case nothing's getting done. But what you really need to do is schedule a doctor's appointment, not beat yourself up for procrastination. Second, never beat yourself up for procrastination because that actually doesn't help you at all. But that we'll get to that. This can be other health concerns, going through grief. Like last year when we were selling the house, there were days packing up rooms where I just sat in a room and didn't actually cry, but I was saying goodbye. It was difficult because it felt like the last time that the connection with Joe was going to be there. We made it. It worked. And I'll let you know one of the tools that I use to help me get past the grief and get on with what had to be done. Another thing that could be getting in the way that can look like procrastination, it is actually yourself worrying with yourself over what you think needs to be done, is when there's some sort of incongruity between your roles, your beliefs, what you think you should do, what you think needs to be done, and your whole essence there. When there's this incongruity, the first thing you need to do is resolve it. If on the one hand, you've got a role of being a loving parent, and on the other hand, you've got your career goals, and fulfilling one goal is going to come in the way of another goal, it's going to cause you to freeze up. It's not procrastination in the true sense. It's your inner self worrying with itself, and you need to clear that up. The second the third and the fourth items are closely related. One is the lack of the knowledge or skill to do what needs to be done, and the other is the lack of the resources. In which case, your procrastination isn't actually over what you have to do. It's getting the structure in place first to be able to do it. So these are just 4 things to consider before you start saying, I'm a procrastinator, I never get anything done. Which is my transition into my next one, and watch your words and labels. When you start labeling yourself as a procrastinator, it means that you've always procrastinated. You always will procrastinate. You never don't procrastinate. When in actuality, it's usually a habit you've developed. It may be a very isolated incident. It may be only certain types of projects that you don't do. And in which case, there are strategies to deal with each of these. And yes, even though we're doing the re-record, Jiffy is still here to keep me company. So, what's your labels? You're not a procrastinator. You're a person who sometimes procrastinates. And when you can work that straight in your mind, it will help you move beyond it. The first major little shove in the right direction, a major little shove. Okay, that was a contradiction in terms. I get it. But the mama eagle's shove out of the nest to get you going in the right direction is remembering your why. Why do you need to do what you say needs to be done? And we've gone through this exercise before, finding your big why. So I'm just going to give a brief recap of it. If you need to delve deeper onto that, let me know, and I can get you the resources you need to do that. But basically, what you want to do is start with what needs to be done. Okay, and when that happens, what is it going to do for me? And keep asking yourself that. And when that happens, what is it going to do for me? Until you can get down to that very bottom level of, oh, that's why I'm doing it. The one that just takes your breath away. And that, quite honestly, is your big why. Sometimes it'll leave you speechless. Sometimes it'll leave you almost in tears when you get down to the point that you know that the reason you're doing this is to leave a legacy, or the reason you're doing this is something to do with your children, or whatever it is that's at the very, very base of why you're doing what you're doing, what that motivation is, what that inspiration is. That's what you're working to discover when you want your big why. So a lot of little whys before you get there, but that big why, that's going to be your one that's going to keep you going through thick and thin, no matter what happens, rain, snow, storm, the old weatherman or postman one. You're going to get there. You're going to make sure the mail gets there. You're going to make sure everything goes the way that you want it to in the end. You may not be able to control the circumstances, but you can control your actions, and knowing your why is going to help. Time for a little bit of reflection now. If you are actually procrastinating, so some of the 4 things we mentioned above, which are masquerading as procrastination, but actually other things that you need to deal with. Now we're going to talk about, you are procrastinating. So why is it this is happening? And a couple of the biggies, or a few that you might come up with, is one, you are beating yourself up. Instead of doing what needs to be done, you're getting caught in this awfulizing or shooting all over yourself. That's another one. I love that term. And it would be awful if I don't get this done. It would be awful if somebody doesn't do this, and I am good, and da 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 da. And you're getting so wrapped up in the negative emotion that you're not getting to what actually has to get done. And this was one of the things that Albert Ellis covered in his book. I know we've gone over A New Guide to Rational Living. He actually wrote a little paperback on procrastination. And that was actually the book that introduced me to Dr. Albert Ellis and RET, Rational Mode of Thinking. So it's all about changing your language. It would be better if using resourceful statements that we go over instead of non-resourceful statements. Stating things in the positive, using the positive energy of, I'll feel better if I get this done. When this is done, it will feel good, as opposed to, if I don't do this, it will be awful. Now, there are some people that are more motivated by moving towards a goal, and others moving away from the pain that hurts them or what bothers them. I think I've told the little parallel before about the dog sitting on the farmer's porch. Every day this little kid walks by and the dog is whining and whining. Well, one day the farmer was out sitting on the porch with the dog, and a little kid asks him, why does he keep whining like that? And the farmer looks down at the dog and looks back at the little kid. He goes, he's sitting on a nail. He goes, why doesn't he move? The farmer said, the pain of moving, the challenge of getting in gear is less than the pain of sitting on the nail. So he just hasn't done it yet. So watch your words. Don't think in terms of awful, and just think in terms of positive energy to get up and get moving. Some of the other things that can get in our way are feelings of overwhelm. Oh my goodness, there's just so much to do, I'll never get to it. And I've got strategies to give you on that. We'll get to that below. Perfectionism. I can't do this unless it's going to be absolutely positively perfect. Well, there's very little that is absolutely positively perfect. Cute cat, right? So we need to figure out the good enough point. The point where we've done what needs to be done to the best of our ability, and it's just right for the situation at hand. Now, I will caution when we're finding this balance in things like writing a program and coming up with the logic for it, the further down the road you push that piece of it, the longer it will take you to fix it when you go on. So you want to be careful. You want to create balance here. And you want to just start moving. And again, we'll get to some strategies to help you work through that. Paralysis by analysis. Now that one's closely tied to perfectionism, but in the one where it's your actions and you have got to do everything absolutely perfect before you get started, this is the idea of you've got to read absolutely everything on it. You've got to search everything on it. You've got to do everything ahead of time and not touch a thing until you've completed every possible thing, and then you'll get started. Which is great if you're an adrenaline junkie and the night before the deadline you're ready to pull a 3 all-nighter in one to get it done. But if you're not ready for that, we'll go over some strategies to get you past that one too. Environmental is another possible block that's causing you to not get to what you've already decided would be in your best interest to do. So there's some things you can do about that. If you already decided it's in your best interest to start eating better, which is a better way of wording it than dieting, that you're creating this lifestyle change where you're going to eat better, Well, then make the environment support you in your effort. Don't bring the chips into the house. Don't bring all the candy into the house. If you've decided that starting every morning with a walk would be a very good use of your time, be healthier for you than not doing it, again, create an environment that supports that. In the outline here, it's where the tapping exercise comes next. I'm going to break that out from this re-recording, and I'll record that, and I will put that as a separate video in the blog post I'm going to do from this. So that will be there, and I tweaked it a little bit. I think you really like it. We'll do that further down. So I've got 3 different sets of strategies now that will help you bypass this whole trap, because that's really what procrastination is. It's a trap we fall into. It's a bad habit we fall into. It's not that we ourselves are fated to procrastinate ever more. It's that for whatever reason, we've created this challenge for ourselves, and now we have to find strategies to get past it. So this first set are strategies just for you. The second set are strategies for you and others. And the third set are strategies for you and tools. So prioritize. Look at things and say, well, which of these are more important? There are only so many hours in a day, so many minutes in those hours, and you may not have all the time you need to get everything done. Now, if you've put in your full day's work and you haven't gotten to everything, and you feel that you should have gotten to one thing and not the other, then it's your prioritization that was off. You want to go back and at the end of the day, look at, did you do the most important things? One great idea is to use your whiteboard or your journal and write out, whether it be the 3, the 6, whatever the numbers you want to use, most important things to get done the next day. And don't do anything else until you've done those. There are 2 different theories on this, depending on your overall toward or away from. And I will employ both of them, depending on which I need at any given time. You need to know which one feels more comfortable for you. For most people, it's the eat the frog method. Do the worst thing first, get that out of the way, and then from there out, everything else goes smoother. For other people, it's the build up. Do the smaller things first. Get your early successes in, and then use that momentum to keep you going. I'm not going to tell you one way is better than the other. I've been known to use both methods depending on what it is. There's also an idea that sometimes a day of creative procrastination may not be such a bad thing. Now, day in, day out of creative procrastination is not going to help you get to where you want. But a day here and there of creative procrastination, where you do everything else on your list except the big things, cleans up the list. Because those little things can start to eat away and nag at you. That's one of the things we do when we do a Freedom Day. I'm going to run a Freedom Day in June again this year for everyone. So as we get closer to that, I will put it out on the mailing list. So if you haven't signed up for my mailing list yet, You'll see the button at either the bottom of the blog post or over the side navigation pane. It's mostly a green and white button. It says stay informed, get bonuses. Click on that. It'll take you to the sign up form and you'll know when I'm scheduling the Freedom Day. The whole idea behind that is it's a day to wipe out all the little things on the list. And we use the strength of each other and some creative procrastination where we take some time ahead of time, plan it out. And it's not the big things we're working on those days. It's all the little things that pile up that we need to get out of the way. So that is coming up in June. That is actually one of the strategies for you and others. Back to strategies for you is this whole idea of prioritizing so that you are doing the most important things. When you think about it, you're thinking about which things are going to take me closer to my goal, which things align themselves with that big why that I found out about myself earlier. And as you focus on that and you use the curiosity of, I wonder how, I wonder what it would take to do this, you're able to start your forward motion and move into gear. The next two are closely related. We talked about the close relationship above. One's called the Swiss cheese method and one's called the just 5 minutes method. And what it is you promise yourself, I'm only going to do one thing. In the Swiss cheese method, it's one piece of a task. In the just 5 minutes, it's a timed event. And what you find is just getting started by doing I'll only wash one dish. I've got this sink full of dishes, but I'm just going to wash one. Suddenly, you wash the ones like, oh, well, while I'm here, I might as well do another one and another one. And before you know it, they're all done. 5 minute methods. I'll put the timer on. I will work for just 5 minutes, and then I'll think about what I'll do again after that. Again, it's just committing to a small chunk. It gets you past that feeling of overwhelm. It gets you beyond the feelings of perfectionism usually because, hey, this whole big, huge project may be too much. It may overwhelm me. It may scare me with how perfect it needs to be. But to wash one dish, I can do that. To sew one button, I can do that. To deal with a jumping cat, well, I don't know what that was about. Felix might have been chasing him. I don't know. He's going to come back and curl up with me, I think. Yeah, that's what it was. The bully cat was chasing him. Felix, get out. Another mind game you can play with yourself is to set your milestones really small, like we just talked about, and reward yourself. Now, make sure the reward is in line with the amount of work you've done and your goals. So if your goal is to lose weight and the task was to take a walk around the block, the reward shouldn't be a double hot fudge sundae. But maybe some fresh fruit would work if you want it to be something that you're going to eat, or read a page from your favorite book. In the environmental sense, if you're going to walk or work out, you could load your favorite book in audio format to whatever your electronic device is, whether you're an Apple person, an Android person, whatever. and use that as your motivation and as your reward. I will take my walk and get to listen to my favorite book at the same time. It's one of the things that T. Harv Eker talks about in his book about the millionaire mindset, is that poor people think in terms of either or. Either I can have my book, read my book, learn what's going on in my story, or I can go do this. Whereas people with the millionaire mindset think of ways that they can do both. We talked about this last week too when we talked about life-work integration. There are some things that you can couple together, that work together. There are other times where the multitasking is truly a myth. You can't listen to a book and write a blog post at the same time. You can put on background music that will help your brainwaves, that will help you write your blog post. So it's not strictly, well, you can't do audio in this at the same time. You can't do two things that will take your mind in separate places and split your minds like that. It doesn't help you. You can do things that complement each other. So that speaks to environmental as well. Other things with the environment, as I mentioned before. Put your sneakers out the night before. Don't bring the junk food into the house. Make sure that your clothes are set out for whatever you need so that you're not running around in the morning driving yourself crazy. And if you don't beat yourself up, because that's only going to set you back further. Strategies that you can use with others. The biggest one, of course, would be having an accountability partner. And we've got another show that I believe was recorded. So if you need more information on that, just let me know. I think I even gave everybody a resource for that one. Contact me if you need more information about accountability partners. When you have an accountability partner, you commit to that person what you're going to do, they commit what they're going to do, and you check in with each other. If you're both having a lot of problems putting things off or getting the whole prioritization piece right, you may want to set more frequent meetings. Meet with each other twice a day, just for 5 minutes at a time. How is it going? Calibrate and tweak and decide if you need to change things up a bit, and then get back to work. Another thing that will work is barter, because sometimes it's just that we just dislike the task so much, and that's what's keeping us from it, but we love another task. So for example, I love to write. Say maybe I didn't like creating splash pages though. Maybe I'm strictly a writer, but I don't like the art or design part of it. It happens. I know people here have gone through that where they know they needed to make a new splash page or whatever. Barter with someone. Okay, I'll write 2 blog posts for you if you make 2 splash pages for me. Again, outsource if you can. Now, this may be something that you can't afford at this point. Maybe you're just getting started. What you want to consider is what your time is worth, and if you can make more money in an income-producing activity than you would doing the task you don't want to do anyway, you're better off doing your income-producing activity and paying someone to do that task you don't want to do. The task gets done. You're in a better financial position. You've given the task to somebody that is probably an expert at it, so it's even getting done better than you would do it, and it's a really good fit to be able to outsource things in that manner. Bartering, like I said, is another way of doing it, where instead of one uses money, outsourcing is money, bartering it's service for service, goods for goods, along those lines. The whole idea of the accountability partner, we said. Freedom Day, I mentioned that already. I will run a Freedom Day in June. So you can start making your list now of all the little things that need to get done that you want to put on that list. Here's the funny thing. You're probably going to have to redo that list when it gets closer, because once you write them down, we have a tendency to set our subconscious mind to thinking about them. And we realize, oh, well, if I just do this, I can get this out of the way. And we just do it and get it out of the way. So if you've got to redo your list as it gets closer, that's fine. Don't make something stay on the list just to stay there when you find that you really can move it off that list. Fourth strategy for you and others is learning that it is okay to say no. This is something we just went over a few weeks ago too, in the larger context of say no. It's sometimes the healthiest thing you can do for relationships, for businesses, for organizations you belong to. I know my example from this comes from Toastmasters. And I was truly burnt out as having been in officership. It's also around the same time that Joe got sick. I felt not really pressured, because Bob would have probably understood if I said, I can't do it. I don't think we knew how sick Joe was yet, but we knew something was going on there. When you say yes and you don't really mean it, you never do as good a job as you should have. It's your big why. It isn't there. You knew there were other things that were more important to you, and yet you said it out of some false sense of responsibility. So you don't have your big why to keep you going and motivate you through the really hard times. You start feeling resentment towards the person that you feel pressured you into it, even if they didn't. Even if it was you that sat there and said, it's okay, I'll do it. Don't feel guilty. You're not doing anyone a favor when you don't stick to, it really doesn't fit in what I have right now. I can't do it. Don't apologize. It's there, especially among women, there is, even as I'm trying to say this piece, there's a big part of me that wants to say, just say, I'm sorry, I can't do it, which is wrong. You don't want to apologize. You are under no moral obligation to do something that doesn't fit in your current plan, that doesn't take you closer to your goals. Now, there are times when your roles, goals, beliefs, etc. are in conflict, and there are things that you just have to do that you can't get out of, and you do need to come to terms with the fact that there are sometimes this will happen. But for the most part, we're talking about things here where you have a big choice and you really should be choosing, no, I can't do this, it doesn't fit in my current schedule, and stick to it. Don't over-explain and don't apologize. Because the more you do either, the more the other person is thinking, oh, maybe they really want to, Or, oh, maybe if I keep talking, they'll change their mind. And when you do change your mind, you take them off the hook, but you put yourself on it. Say no. Learn the value of no. In the blog post, I used the picture of the 2-year-old. 2-year-olds are excellent at telling you no, no, no. So you get to pull out your inner 2-year-old, say no, and stick to it. Couple tools I did want to remind you about. And the first one is really important because as I'm recording this, the launch window is actually open for the second quarter, is the 100-day challenge. The 100-day challenge is one of the ones that helps with overwhelm. It helps with goals that will benefit greatly from a start fast, finish strong type approach. Think tortoise and the hare type things. Tortoise was great at sprint, or got that backwards. The hare was great at sprints, not so good for the marathon. When it's a sprint type task, when it's a small type task, bigger than something we can do on a freedom day, a short, but still a short-term thing that has to get done. I just finished up doing the 100-day challenge myself. Anything I recommend to you is something I used myself or have used myself. 100-day challenge. It's like living on, if you're a football fan, the 2-minute drill. You can't do the 2-minute drill all through the game. It's too much. You can't commit to it for the next 100 days. The way the challenge works is it starts you off with like a 5 to 7 minute video each morning to motivate, encourage, teach you a new skill. It is electronic in nature so that you record in the application what you need to do. You can use it for your 6 most important things. You can set it up to email your accountability partners so they can work with you on this. It's a great tool. It really keeps you going. It's got countdown tools in it. And it will get you through the goal. Like I said, we just moved it. I just used it for our whole selling the house and moving. It helped me get past the debilitating part of the grief that I was working through. Helped me remember to be accountable for what I needed to get done. Still take the time to honor the grief, to work through it, but to be more consistent in the way I was processing that and using the tools available on that, as well as accomplishing the tasks that needed to get done to get us out of the one house, get it sold, get us somewhere else. The other tool that I highly recommend is Simpleology. Where the 100-day challenge is this very compressed time frame. Simpleology is my day in, day out. It replaces a traditional to-do list with, they've got all these taglines. It's something that's sane. It allows you to do prioritization. You can either do it manually, or if you take the upgrade. Simpleology, you can sign up for free. You can use all their tools for free. And or you can upgrade, which gives you a few more tools you can use. I've done both. They both work great. It is your choice how you approach this. I would at least get started with the free tools. There are many times they are running a special where you get 60 days or 30 days of the the complete upgrade package. The training system is based on a belt system, so you start at your weight belt, and there's short videos again, done by Mark Joyner himself, and they teach you both skills as well as how to use the tool itself. We got rain outside. It must really be spring. We're moving along. And I hope with that you are ready to move along too. So with that, there you have bypassing the procrastination trap. It was a bit generic in nature because I don't know what your exact challenges are. If you have challenges that I didn't hit on well enough to help you get moving, to help you take that first step and give you the strategies you need to get moving, by all means contact me. Skype is down below, Facebook's down below. Get in touch with me either way. Tell me what the problem is. Let's work out something that will work for you. Beyond that, let me know what happens. I want to know how these strategies worked out for you. Did you find that you tweaked it some way that made it work better? Did you get stuck with it, in which case maybe I can offer some further suggestions for using some of the tools I already gave you. Also, I said down below will be the tapping meditation. Use it, give it a try. It's going to feel funny. I don't know why, but I fought tapping for a long time. And yet the people that tap, it's emotional freedom technique, EFT tapping, report great success with it. And I am finding that as I use it, I feel better. I'm still not sure how to completely explain it. I'm still reading on the science behind it and everything. There's some great resources on that. I'm not an affiliate, so some of them I can't share with you yet. But the script I wrote myself and the meditation's my own, so I can share that with you. So with that, folks, that wraps up the re-recording of this. Nobody asked for comments tonight, but if you've got any, you can leave them in the comments below and I will read those. So have a good night, everyone, and I will talk to you soon. Ta-ta.